So there's talk now about Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount merging into one studio, and a lot of people are talking about the potential negative impact this could have on Star Trek. I'm going to respond to two articles, one of them from CBR.com and one from redshirtsalwaysdie.com. Now from CBR, a Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery merger is bad news for Star Trek. A meeting between executives at Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery to discuss a merger would be very bad news for the Star Trek renaissance. Now, it's a very good article. I think that author Joshua M. Patton has clearly thought a great deal about this and presented a well-considered point of view. I would disagree with the conclusion, however. So the full article is linked below for you to check out. He talks about the cinematic and streaming losses both Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery have faced recently, and that there's been a meeting between studio executives which was more exploratory than preliminary. He talks about how Star Trek has been one of Paramount's few real successes of late, but I wanted to skip down to the last few paragraphs. It reads, Warner Brothers Discovery failed to maximize the potential of its stable of DC Comics characters, many of whom have existed for more than 80 years. The most cynical read on the company's interest in Paramount has nothing to do with its status as one of America's most important studios. Rather, it's another opportunity to engage in special post-merger tax breaks and write-offs of the kind that make it so Batgirl can never legally be released. A very credible reading of the situation for sure. It says children's programming and sports licenses are appealing moneymakers, but something like Star Trek is sure to be underappreciated. Paramount's renewed investment in the Star Trek universe is arguably part desperation. It's one of the few legacy franchises the studio has been able to successfully return to, even with the harsh criticism Discovery and Picard faced in their early seasons. It endures. I would argue that criticism was not harsh, it was warranted. But I will continue this discussion right after this. But first, imagine the following. A fantastic mobile role-playing game with great graphics, immense PvE boss fights, incredibly dynamic arena battles, endless strategy, and a compelling story with loads of powerful champions to collect. Well, this game is now entering its 5th anniversary with lots of exciting activities and cool rewards for new players. Yes, you guessed it, it's the unstoppable Raid Shadow Legends. That's the sponsor for today's video. Download it for free today from my link in the description box or via the on-screen QR code. The game that's expanded and added new features and updates for 5 years. Here's some recent highlights from the past 12 months. In live arenas, you can now showcase your fighting abilities in real time with other players in 4-on-4 battles with a wide range of characters. Mythical Champions is a powerful new rarity of champion that boasts metamorph skills to transform between 2 different forms and offers additional power and versatility. Cursed City is another big update. By clearing all of these stages one by one each month, you can gain extra rewards, including a free Mythical Champion and an epic showdown with Aeneas, the Lunar Archon. There's been so many updates to Raid over the past 5 years, there's almost too many to mention, and they have greatly expanded the scope and scale of the game, adding a huge amount of rewards, and there's lots more new content coming all the time. Raid is just getting started. Again, use the promo code FESTIVAL5 and we'll see you at the party in Teleria. Speaking of which, to celebrate Raid's 5th anniversary, there's a plethora of goodies for new players. There's never been a better time to join the 5 million monthly active players out there. Download it today for free via my link or the on-screen QR code. You get 2 epic champions to start with just by using my link and the promo FESTIVAL5. Plus, you get an endless amount of other rewards, including free energy, XP boosters, and the epic boss killer, Lady Atessa. And find my clan, it's called Dave Cullen Show, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Okay, so welcome back. The article continues. Once Season 5 of Discovery ends its run, fans old and new will return to it repeatedly. I'm not so sure about Discovery anyway. It's even given Paramount the chance to make a buzzy film starring Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh with Section 31. Again, I would disagree with this. Star Trek Discovery has a small audience of dedicated Trek fans, but generally is disliked by a wide section of the fan base. There is also little to no interest in a Section 31 movie. So the article concludes with the following. Some of these projects will be instant hits, but every Star Trek story will eventually turn a profit. It's one of the few large fandoms where even the bad episodes or movies enjoy repeated viewings. If Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery enter into a merger that leaves David Zaslav in control, Star Trek will suffer. Based on their decisions since taking over Warner Brothers, the powers that be don't seem to have the patience necessary to let something grow or find its audience. The new Star Trek renaissance will be over before it has a chance to hit warp speed. See, this is where I fundamentally disagree. I don't believe we've been living through a Star Trek renaissance at all in recent years. Strange New Worlds is very difficult to take seriously because it doesn't really take itself seriously. Sometimes it feels like an actual Star Trek parody. Prodigy is okay, but it is more aimed at kids, and visually, the cast of characters look like something from Monsters Inc. or Guardians of the Galaxy. Picard Season 3 was the only decent season of that show. Lower Decks is like Rick and Morty with a Star Trek skin, and the less said the better about Discovery, a show that only a small section of the Trek fandom will harbour fond memories of. I think just because Paramount bombarded us with lots of Star Trek in recent years doesn't mean we're in a creative high point or a renaissance for the franchise. We were just given lots of Star Trek product to consume. Quantity and not quality. This next article is by Chad Porto, and it's from redshirtsalwaysdie.com. Again, it's linked below for you to read. It's a good article. The Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount Global merger would be horrible for Star Trek. More consolidated debt means less opportunities for shows like Star Trek to explore. I'm just going to focus on a few paragraphs from this article. And we'll begin with this one. One of the biggest new threats to the everyday consumer is the constant mergers by multimedia companies. It seems good on the surface, but with more mergers come fewer jobs, fewer options for fans to watch, and more of a monopoly over the content you watch. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery is once again looking to merge, this time with Paramount, the home of Star Trek. The merger would see the two companies combine and landmark channels either end or be merged in the process. And all of this is happening because of the streaming wars. To paraphrase a rival Star film franchise, streaming was supposed to bring relief to the wallets of consumers, not make things more expensive. And yet, that's exactly what's happened. With each merger comes a consolidation of debt, and with more debt comes fewer jobs, less bold content being made, and more of what everyone hates, reality shows. Absolutely true. Another merger will only further exacerbate the need for every property that Paramount makes to be a hit. If a show isn't successful instantly, it won't be kept around. The era of getting 5 seasons of a show like Star Trek Discovery is long over, but it could be worse for the consumer if yet another merger happens. Again, respectfully, I actually think this is a good thing. I don't think we should have gotten those 5 seasons of Discovery in the first place. I mean, what kept that show on the air for 5 years is a mystery to me, and no doubt many of you in the comments section below. If another merger happens, either one of two things will happen. Star Trek will become a copy and paste property, well, it already kind of is, much the same as other major franchises have become, or the creativity will be allowed to exist, but only if it generates enough interest. I'm fine with that, actually. Otherwise, it'll meet a quick end. But in no world is a merger with these two major companies a good thing for the Star Trek franchise or its fans. And again, I disagree. I would much prefer to have less Star Trek on the air than lots of poor quality and sometimes woke Star Trek, the likes of which we've gotten since Discovery began back in 2017. And I would rather have no Star Trek being made than have bad Star Trek being made. The Star Trek produced under Secret Hideout has been appalling, with a couple of exceptions here and there. Star Trek's best days are long behind it. Nothing produced in recent years can compete with the golden era of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. None of the series can hold a candle to the likes of Enterprise, Voyager, DS9, and The Next Generation, or indeed the original series. If this merger takes place, it could be one of the best things to happen to the franchise in a very long time, because it could mean Star Trek will actually have to be extremely good from the get-go to stay on the air. It sounds to me like this merger could potentially create a much more competitive environment for Star Trek, and competition breeds excellence. The quality of Star Trek would have to increase. They'd have to hire much more talented writers and producers. Imagine that. Imagine we got a Star Trek series worth watching that appealed to the majority of its enormous fan base, and not just a subsection of that fan base who seem to be pleased with any old rubbish with the Star Trek name attached to it. And hey, if it doesn't work out, and if this future series gets cancelled, that's fine too. Star Trek is overdue for a long break anyway. I mean, there's decades worth of Trek shows and plenty of films already made. It's not like Star Trek content has been in short supply. Let it rest and bring it back when woke is in the past and when there's a great team of hardcore fans who can write and produce quality Star Trek. when the time is right. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to check out our sponsor for this video, Raid, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.